Hi everyone, welcome and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Dynamics 365 Security and Licensing Enforcement, What's New and What It Means for You. I'm Sebastian Anderson with the Licensing and Database Desk here at Avantiico. January 15th has come and gone, and Microsoft's licensing enforcement push is now the law of the land. Every firm relying on D365 needs to understand this new framework and the deadlines that are unique to each company. To guide you through the finer points of this new reality and what it means for your business, we have Morten Løgstrup, our Director of Customer Engagement, and Tatiana Subotin, our Licensing and Database Technical Lead. They'll be walking us through what Microsoft's new rolling compliance enforcement means for D365 users, how to use Azure Telemetry to review actual user behavior and right-size license assignments, what's new in D365 user security and governance, how to audit your current license usage and roles ahead of your enforcement countdown, real-world examples of how clients avoided thousands in unexpected licensing costs, and a limited licensing assessment offer for attendees, as well as a live Q&A. Morten will be taking over shortly, but before we dive into today's session, I'd love to share some of the other exciting webinars and events we have coming up. First, on April 28th, we have Streamline Dynamics 365 FNSEM migrations and integrations with AMCS. You'll learn how Avantiico's AMCS tool helps simplify one of the most complex parts of any ERP journey, data migration and system integration. Our template-driven migration engine rapidly moves data from legacy systems into D365, ensuring accuracy, consistency, and repeatability across multiple entities. At the same time, a native integration framework makes directly connecting third-party systems a cinch, eliminating manual uploads and reducing reliance on custom development. The result is a faster, cleaner, and more scalable path to go live and beyond. Then, join us live from May 25th through 27th at Dynamics Minds 2026. Dynamics Minds stands out as a premier community-led conference tailored to Microsoft Dynamics 365 and Power Platform professionals. And this year, it's being held at the stunning Grand Hotel Bernardin in Portorož, Slovenia. The event draws more than 1,000 participants alongside Microsoft specialists, MVPs, and partners for multiple days of in-depth technical sessions, networking opportunities, and collaborative learning across the full business applications ecosystem. If you're thinking about going, the Avantiico team will be attending in person and would be excited to meet up with you. What's more, as a gold sponsor of the conference, we're happy to provide a 10% discount on your ticket. Just use the code shown on screen. We hope to see you there. We will have other events and webinars added to the calendar, so be sure to keep an eye on this space. We've got some exciting things coming up in 2026 that you won't want to miss. On top of that, please let us know if there are any topics you would like to see us cover in the future. All registration links for these events will be available in the chat, on our website, and within this slide deck. One last note. As we go through this presentation, do not hesitate to pop any questions you have into the chat. There will be a few interludes for questions during the show, as well as an open Q&A at the tail end of the webinar. Any questions that aren't answered live will be addressed in direct email follow-up. With that, Morten, take it away.
Thank you, Sebastian. Yes, thanks for the introduction. And please, let's try to keep this as interactive as possible, because this is set up for you, the end user. We know that there have been a lot of changes since Microsoft announced the licensing enforcement. We, as a partner, are trying to keep up with all the changes and updates and so on. And today we are going to walk through a couple of the basic steps that we hopefully that you have them covered. And then Tatiana will actually show you how we are working with data and how we are extracting and how we are doing some advanced assessments. I think, I can't remember how many we have done now, but it's definitely a lot of assessments, because The standards tools are still a little bit rough to work with when it comes to optimizing your security design to avoid, again, paying for licenses you don't need, or having security roles and entitlements assigned to users that they don't need or shouldn't have, and so on and so forth. So please ask as many questions. We will do our best to cover them today, and if not, follow up, because sometimes we are a little bit, we have never seen that before. But yep, bring it on. Today, very quickly, I'll go through some of the milestones and deadlines for those who haven't seen them. We take a quick look at some of the changes in the PPAC report, and then Tatiana will jump into some demoing of how we are actually conducting some more advanced or in-depth analyses that give you some tangible recommendations that you can implement yourself, or you can work with your partner, or work with us, or whoever is doing that today. So let's get into it. Everybody probably know that January 15 is now the enforcement date, changed a couple of times. So that caused a lot of panic in the channel. Now it's case by case scenario. So check when your licensing is up for renewal, because that's dictating your case. We know that it's currently for the commercial cloud, and I believe most customers are on the commercial cloud. So at least the ones we are working with. Some of the unknowns, we still don't know the timeline for when Microsoft are enforcing device licensing, storage, sandboxes, and so on. And there's also, if you are on a government cloud and the sovereign cloud, then there's still some unknown timelines. But since we spoke last time, we have seen several customers already receiving the warning banner or the notification inside D365. I have a few screenshots later. And we have also seen a customer receiving the banner despite their renewal being far out in the future. So there is still some bugs or some updates in the system that are not 100% yet. We have a call every Friday with some of the Microsoft engineers, and we are going through some bugs more or less every time that we have learned that if you are going to, or when you're going to 47, some of these issues will likely be solved. So if you are seeing some discrepancies in your reports, or for example, supply chain license is missing in the, hey, this person needs a supply chain license, you probably get some fixes when you move to 47, or at least that's what we have heard. There's also some new database archiving functionalities in 47 update. I have not tried them myself. We won't spend too much time on it, but I know it's going to be a major focus area as soon as the D365 user-based licenses have been fixed, because we do see some massive both Dataverse databases, but also finance and supply chain databases that are going to cost a fortune if you don't get it cleaned up or truncated out of D365, and so on and so forth. There's different strategies for that, and we have a team. But this is about the user licenses in D365. In March, in the March licensing guide, I hope everybody is familiar with that. 80 pages of what can the different users do, what are they entitled to. The only change there was in March was to sales premium. The previous versions, as I mentioned on the last webinar, had a good amount of changes to team members, to sales, to finance licenses, to supply chain licenses. So if you experienced like users all of a sudden needed more than you thought, that could have been one of the reasons. Not a lot of changes. That's the point in the March release. Validation timeline. Hopefully everybody is familiar with this, but look at your renewal dates for your D365 finance, supply chain, human resource, activity, and so forth licenses. and use this method to calculate when your users will get a notification banner, because it creates a little bit of a panic state. At least that's what we have seen. And in most cases, customers actually have licenses, but they have not been assigned to the users. So that's normally a good way to start, just to avoid the panic from end users. Let me ask the 37 attendees here. Have anyone received notification from users or seen the banner in the D365, the notification banner?
Yeah, we would actually really like to know, because it's been hit or miss up to this point who's been seeing it and who's been reporting on it. So if anyone has firsthand contact with that, please let us know.
People are, oh, there was one there. Okay, good, Stephen. Yeah, you're not alone. Yeah, yesterday and last week I received two. I took a screenshot, popped them in here, and it was both warehouse workers and then regular back office workers. And it's a little bit, please contact your admin to get one assigned immediately. Definitely, some people are freaking out. We are more than happy to help clear it up and make a plan so that you avoid it, especially if you have global users. It can be a challenge to go through the security cleanup, the testing of the new roles, and so on. So hopefully you have a plan already. If not, reach out and we can help. We have yet to see the blocking banner, or you don't have a license banner. I haven't heard it from anyone yet. So we are waiting actually to get confirmation from users that are, for example, on a month-to-month term with the license. They have not seen this yet. So I think Microsoft might be working in the background to get that working. Who knows if it's in the 47 release? But so far we haven't seen anyone with issues. If you are admin, remember to check your junk folder, because this is definitely going in my junk folder, some of these emails. If you are admin set up in D365, you receive some different notification emails. You can also go into Admin Center, where you find the different warnings. And normally there's a good amount of information in the letters or the messages, notifications you're getting from Microsoft. So check them out. And if there's anything you are confused about, reach out. Every Friday, as mentioned, we as Avantiico, we are jumping on a call with the Microsoft folks that are sending out these messages and trying to validate and get feedback from customers to make sure that everything is working as it should. There's different deadlines. Again, check your dates. We have seen there's discrepancies around when the banner is in the user's interface and when the customer actually have to renew. I'll give you an example. We have a customer right now, their renewal is in July, I believe, and you're already seeing the notification banner. So there's a little bit of maybe mismatch of what's actually happening. Any questions, Sebastian, so far?
So far, no questions, but a hearty
Good.
dose of examples and responses on the banner question. So we do
Okay.
appreciate that, everyone.
Good. Awesome. Really quick, I have a few additional slides, and then I'll give it over to Tatiana. But I clicked instead of highlighted, and there you go. Remember, it's in production environment. Clean admins don't need licenses, but you can see that very nicely in the PPAC report. I have an example in a second. Service account don't need licenses either. Device, even though it's not enforced, you still need to have a license according to your licensing agreement with Microsoft. So make sure that you're covering that, because we have seen examples of cases where there's actually a lot of warehouse workers that are logging into devices, but none of these devices are properly licensed. So get it licensed because you want to avoid a potential audit. ISVs, I mentioned it many times, and that is probably one of the bigger challenges. If you have industry-specific ISVs, we normally see them being a little bit invasive due to the security design. And we do work with a lot of our customers on, hey, provide this information to your ISV, and then the ISV can make some adjustment to their security model, so it's not conflicting with D365. Hopefully everybody is by now familiar with the different platforms where you can assign license, check license count, and so on and so forth. So I don't want to talk more about that. New reports, everybody should be familiar with that, and Tatiana will show some of them in a little bit. In Power Platform Admin Center, and I copy the link in a second and drop it. But if you use the little preview feature, when you log into PPAC, you actually are 2 weeks, give and take, ahead of everything when it comes to features. So when Microsoft are adding new features in here, you can use the preview and you actually see what's coming. It's a little nice to have. If there's any questions to the drill down functionalities of the PPAC report, let me know. I can flip the screen and we can show it live. If not, I think we should maybe jump over to Tatiana, because this is the basic we started with early days, and since then we haven't had that many questions to these initial or standard reports.
Yeah, before we hand it over to Tatiana, are there any questions about what we just went over so far? Bear in mind, if you come up with them a little later, we will answer them at the end as well. So we have one from Alexander.
Yep.
What is counted as a service account? Does the system check whether it is a non-interacting user in MS Entra? And question 2, do the regular users under whose credentials some of the batch jobs are running need a base/attach license?
Tatiana is smiling.
I will cover both questions.
Okay, yeah. Good question, Alexander. We will cover that in a second. Any other questions so far, Sebastian?
So far, no others. I think with that, it's probably a good idea to dive in to section 2 of the show. As we're going through that, please feel free to paste any questions you have. All right, Tatiana, illuminate us.
Thank you for attending this webinar. It's a pleasure to see you here, new and returning attendees. What we would like to go through today is we're talking about how we analyze security and how we analyze licenses. But I want to show you how like the more complex approach, how we join data, how what data when we extract data with the client, what kind of information we can get from this extraction, and what kind of actions follow after we make our reports and create our conclusions. I'll share my screen. I'm going to steal the show from you, Morten. It's going to be quite hands-on approach. So what today? It's a mix of, if you're interested in this presentation, I will share. There is nothing what you don't know. You probably know all of this. I will just show you the complex approach, how we analyze data in complex. So first of all, we start probably like everybody else. We start with the active users, and you know that the active users here, you will see the URL to retrieve each single form or table that I'm talking about. and if you request this presentation, you will get this. What you need to do, actually, you need to copy the part after the slash, like everything what starts with the question mark, and you will get to the right place. I want to show you, I want to do it with you today. So the first one is the active users form. And the active users form shows us who is active, who is not, right? Nothing new, you will tell me. And it's true, there is nothing new. What else, like looking at this form, I can tell which user had at least logged in once. No, like we're not counting guest user. But in this case, all of them, they show that they have logged in. It's a sandbox database, Contoso database. But if you see the user with all zeros, it means that the user have never logged in yet. So it's one of the signs. However, together with invalid users form, which is, again, we go to the invalid users form, it gives us quite interesting information. Here's an invalid users form. What the invalid users form show? It shows you discrepancies that it found between the Entra or telemetry, Entra and telemetry, and the user list. If you look at the invalid users form, it tells you that a certain user is not in Entra. What it means? It means that the user is deleted in Entra, and the user is I'm not saying is, but may be still active. So you need to put these two lists side by side, and you need to find those who are still active but deleted in Entra. One good finding. You will ask me if it drives the license requirement. It does not, but it's a good way to start your cleanup. The second point, our analysis, it's not just about licenses. It's about cleanup, about segregation of duties, about licenses, about keeping your security and license configuration tight, clean, and actual. So that's the first one. The second one. The second interesting finding is somebody asked us about the application users. So the application users, again, if we compare the same user list to the application users, I'll do the same trick. I'll copy. Instead of invalid users, we are going to look at the application users. This gives me the list of the users that I should skip in my analysis, because these users, they're designed to work for like as an integration point. These users do not require a license, and my experiments show that if I assign a user to this list, this user is going to be deleted from the PPAC report. So these are, I'm not saying you need to do it. No, of course not. But how, if you have, like, one of our friends kept asking this question from one webinar to another one. How, if I have an application user that is that holds a business role. We know, for example, if a company is using a CRM like a Microsoft CRM, their innocent role, like a sales clerk, is a bridge, right? Integration bridge for the users who are working with CRM and create records in finance and supply chain. And he asked us, like, how about an application user who is holding a business role? So this user needs to be placed in this list because it's an application user, and to avoid license, like additional license requirement. How does Microsoft know that it's an application user? They don't know, first of all, if it's not a Microsoft account. And second, they can track telemetry the same way like we are going to do it today. So if they see that a user is placed in the application users and the user shows some activity in the business entry points, right? Not service entry points, but business entry points, like business forms, sales orders, purchase orders, then they can suspect that it's not an application user. Okay, let's move forward. So that's the second point. The next point, again, it's all about the users, right? User activity aging. It's a great report that, and we're not coming to users back, so I'm going to open the user activity aging here. So this is a great report, and it's probably the easiest way to find the over license, or I should say over license, like over consumption in the licenses. Because as you see, we have lots of licenses who have never logged in the system, and we have quite a few who've been working, and you see the agent information here. So this is all cool, and our maybe regular approach is to consider these users as inactive users. And I mentioned this. This is the actual list of the users. Why I added telemetry here? This is the link how to get to application and sites in the portal, Azure portal. Why did I add telemetry here? I had cases like from one license analysis to another one. We collect some interesting cases, right? And I had interesting cases when user activity aging shows that the user is inactive, while telemetry shows activity and people confirm that the users were active. These are the most active people, but the user activity aging doesn't show this. I cannot answer why it happens. This is why the active users, like in our analysis, the active users are those who show activity in both, or at least one of them, right? Either user activity agent or telemetry. We will look at telemetry in a few minutes. So user activity is quite straightforward. Telemetry is also quite straightforward. It's a service. It's an Azure service. It's an application inside service that you can configure. Yeah.
One quick question. Is
Yep.
there anyone on the call that have not yet enabled telemetry for D365?
Great question.
Going once, going twice. Everybody have enabled. Great.
Super.
We love to hear that.
Right. So what telemetry shows, right? When you configure it, and you can find the steps to configure on our site. You can find the steps and video in the web. You can find this information. When you get inside, right? When you get inside, you need to go to the monitoring section log, and you can extract information. Like this information can be overwhelming. However, if you move to the KQL mode and run one of the two, this is my working file, by the way, I'll show you. This is my working file. When we collect data, I take our users through this data collection. So we run either a short query or a little bit longer query. What's the difference? Some companies have multiple production environments. For those companies, and you probably know that the license works within the tenant. Let's say the company has 5 production environments within one tenant. So if a user is working in 3 production environments, this user needs 1 license. This license covers all production environments within the tenant, right? And if we have such case, we run the longer, like a bigger like this is a small one, you see, that's a small one. It doesn't show the environment, and it shows only very simple information. When, what, entry point, who, the user, and how long it took to open this, like to open the form or open the entry point. So this is the short version of the telemetry. This is a longer version of telemetry. It shows also an environment if we were talking about multiple production environments. And to export it properly, you need to select the date range. Here, we work with at least 2 weeks, because and it's preferably, you know, preferably if these weeks go over certain periodical tasks, like for example, you close your inventory. Let's say you work with a weighted average. You need to close your inventory monthly. It's good if your telemetry covers such actions, or you close your months. I mean, finance department closes months, or you have invoicing schedule, and invoicing happens on a certain day, or something else. You know this pattern. Some cycles, right? It's good when telemetry covers as many cycles as possible. I know that we close the year only once a year, so most likely, if your fiscal year is not in the middle of the year, most likely this event is going to be skipped. So it's an exception, but everything else, it's good when telemetry covers your cycles. And that's we usually put the custom date range. And also we usually select the max limit of number of records, because by default it is going to export you just 1,000 records. We would we will be happy to work with more than 1,000, right? 5,000 records. That's normal for mid-size companies, like a monthly data collection. 300,000, 500,000, this is reasonable. And after you export it, you can, after you pull this data, you can share this query, export to CSV, displayed columns, and then you have data to work with. And I'm getting back to our presentation. Two together, they will give us active users. What else, right? You can ask me, like, what else? Okay, so telemetry is only to identify active users? No, of course not. It gives much, much more. Look, we're saying keep the users in the further analysis, right? And consider inactive to as potentially to be deactivated. Potentially. Why potentially? Because there is a very interesting, and this case happened, like this case occurred a few times already, so I'm going to talk about this. Potentially, your inactive users are not inactive at all. When you have a thin client and you have users, again, let's go back to a case of CRM and Dynamics Finance and Supply Chain. Microsoft CRM, Finance, Dynamics Finance and Supply Chain, you have a sales clerk or a sales rep or somebody who is working exclusively with CRM and never opens Finance and Supply Chain. What's going to happen? Both telemetry and user aging will have this user inactive, unfortunately, right? This user is inactive because this user never uses UI of finance and supply chain. Telemetry captures UI. User aging, activity aging is captures UI activity. So they miss both of them miss such users. We cannot just deactivate this user. We need to like we assume, right? That's our assumption. So first of all, I need to find, and look, when we're doing this, I'm absolutely blind. I have no clue what's going on with the in the company. What I'm precisely looking at these inactive users, and probably you're going to do it too. I'm looking at these inactive users, and I'm looking at their role assignment. The role assignment is a data migration entity. I look at this list of inactive, potentially inactive, and their roles, and I try to find the common roles. Those common roles are most likely an integration point, like integration roles. And then I go back to our client and I ask, okay, looks, I found, let's say 30 inactive, potential inactive users, but they have the same common role. Do you think that they are integration users? And in this case, in most cases, people say, yes, you know what? Yes, they are. They are our sales reps or sales agents. And in this case, I'm asking to pull transactional data. If we're talking about a sales rep, sales agent, somebody who creates sales transactions, right? In this case, I need to pull transactional table with the created date and time, created by, modified date and time, modified by. I'm focused on these two, created by and modified by, because I need to know whether this user created transactions in the past, like years. We consider 4 months. You can consider a longer period, whether this user created transactions or not. This is an additional information that allows us to make a decision on the users, like to prevent deactivation of active users. And we keep these users active, and we consider this role as an integration role that is required, even though telemetry is very silent about these menu items.
And speaking of additional information, Morten, you've got your hand up? You're also muted, unfortunately.
There you go. John, he was saying here, in my testing, the system user role still requires a team member license. That has been a few months back now. So.
I debated if I need to add this. There are service roles. System user is a service role. On its own, system user does not require a license. These roles, and I can add to this presentation quickly, just as a reminder, these roles do not require licenses if they're assigned on their own or in a combination of the roles from the same list, right? So if you configure a combination of the roles from this list, you will see that PPAC doesn't show you the license requirement for this user. If you add another role to any of these roles except a system administrator, you will see that PPAC shows the license requirement. If you add a business role to a system administrator, PPAC will show no license requirements. So the combination of this, no license. The combination of a business role and any of these, except system administrator, it's a license. The combination of a business role and a system administrator, no license. Did I answer the question? I hope so.
I think John, speak. John, please go on mute and then.
Yeah. So like I was mentioning, that when I was testing it, I only found it odd because it was showing up in a PPAC summary that team member licenses was required. This was maybe 2-3 months back when I was looking at this. Now there is the system user role does have a combination of the Office integration power user and the Power Automate administrator roles underneath it. So that could be what's causing that. And maybe the system user role by itself doesn't have that, because you can go in and remove those manually if you try to test it out. But
right. So we are guided by the second. I placed 2 guides that are go-to, and the second extension. that Microsoft released sometime, right? And look, they keep releasing this. It's quite recent. And yes, and there is a list of roles, and Microsoft says no, the license is not required if it's one of these roles or the combination of these roles. Yeah, the system administrator is a different story, right? We know, and you can read about the system administrator. It's going to say somewhere here that the system administrator and a business role, no license requirement. It's no license requirement. So I encourage you to keep an eye on these two documents, because Microsoft talks to us through these documents, and they update, especially the first document, they update it monthly. As Morten mentioned, it's our guide. Okay, let's move forward.
Thank you for the question, Jan.
Okay, moving forward. What else we can what else we can get from I don't have too many slides. Don't worry. I'll give you a chance to ask questions. User license by role. This is a table. It's quite interesting table. I'm a big fan of this table. So we're not going to use activity. Activity is done. Let's look at this table. So the table gives us a view, like that's the perspective, the combination of user, role, and license, and type of license. But you, of course, you know, you've been dealing with this for months, years. You know that you can flip base and attach, right? Between the three, commerce, finance, supply chain, any of them can be base, and the others should be attached. Same with the human resource and project. Any of these two can be based. The other one is attached. If it's a combination of, no, they are grouped. They're grouped behind the scenes. If it's a combination, a role from one group, commerce, finance, supply chain, and a role from another group, then the base is always one of these. And the attach is always the other one, because this one is more expensive. This one is cheaper. So the base is more expensive always. Like if you look at this user here, you see supply chain is base, finance is attached, commerce is attached. We can buy finance base, attach commerce, attach supply chain. We're allowed to do it. This table gives provides a view through users' roles. When we combine this table with another one, which is well-known, well-loved security analysis. Security analysis shows, don't forget to rebuild it before you start your analysis, please. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes to rebuild. So this one shows it's our view permission, but expanded to all roles. If you remember, when we configure security roles, we have a view permission form, and the view permission form it shows roles, a sub role, duty, privilege, entry point, the type of entry point, and what kind of permissions, right? What level of permissions each entry point has. So together, these two, they tell us, okay, if it's a role, let's say, who's here? Okay, if it's a role, employee, for example, right? Employee, it's a team member traditionally. If it's a role, then what kind of role is this? Employee, do I have an employee? No, I don't. But employee, it would show me a team member here. And I know, okay, so these entry points entry points, they are not, they don't require a license more than team member. They can be less requiring license, but no more than team member, right? That's a very good, it shows me the cap, these two together. But still, how much each entry point costs? That's the main question. When looking at this grid, I don't know how much each entry point costs. If you go to the table, there is a trick. If you go to the table, right, you can retrieve this table information. Microsoft started populating the cost of each entry point. Sometimes they do it it's like a like for in the future releases, they're going probably to show us the UI, but right now they show actually how much each entry point costs. The reason, okay, these fields are hidden. Okay, they're visible in the database. Sometimes we export data with the clients through the SSMS, from the database. When it exceeds 1 million records, we have to export it through the database. And if you go to the database, if you go to, like if you can access sandbox environment, you will see the entry points and their license, but it's still invisible here, which is fine. It's a teaser from Microsoft. I've seen it because I export data, but I'm telling you, you can retrieve this information. However, there is another table, very, very useful table, one of the best. And this table is called license role requirement. It has actually 3 versions: license role requirements, license duty requirements, and license privilege requirements. We work with the role requirements and privilege requirements. So the role requirements table, it shows us all entry points and the license that is required for each of them. The table may be very confusing. Oh, I didn't copy. The table may be confusing. And it looks huge. I'll tell you how it works. Now, first of all, if it's not entitled, it's really nothing to talk about, like it doesn't require a license. We're talking about entitled ones. And if it's an entitled table, table, you can see write and read access level. Write means it's not read. Really, I'm not kidding. It's not read. So, we have a read permission and other permissions, right? Update, create, delete, correct, invoke. Oh, yes, invoke, that's right. So read permission is a read permission. Everything else is not a read permission. And Microsoft doesn't bother. Like you have an update permission or you have a create permission, doesn't bother. They split everything into write and read. And if it's a read, then they tell us, okay, great, this is a read permission. It can be a commerce. Let me pull the same AOT. It can be a commerce, it can be a supply chain, it can be a finance, it can be something else, it can be an activity. When I see such things, like the same entry point can be an activity and everything else, it is an activity. If they allow me to consider this entry point as an activity, it is an activity. If they say supply chain, commerce, activity, team member, it's a team member. We go with the lowest. How about if it's a commerce, supply chain, and finance? Then I go back to this spreadsheet Like I go back to this requirement. Aha, so the entry point is assigned to a project manager, let's say. The project manager is in project operations, and the entry point also has a project operations in the list here. You see, it's the same entry point, and you see different SKUs assigned to the same entry point. That's what I mean. The same entry point can be a commerce, a finance, a supply chain, and a team member. That's a team member. No, of course, with the role, like, right? Within the role, it's a team member, and so on. So this table gives me an idea about how much each entry point costs, what license is behind. If I see none, no, I didn't see none, then it's an activity. This is it, very simple. So we're going with the lowest non-team member activity. And then if it's not one of these three, then we look at the role. Okay, so it's an expensive entry point. The role has what? Commerce. Then it's a commerce. The role has what? Project. Then it's a project. It's expensive, right? We know this. That's the combination of these two data sources. The next interesting point is security analysis. Security analysis, let me remind you, it's a view permissions, this one, right? Security analysis and telemetry. What information can we get if we join these two pieces of information? We can find what's used, what's not, on the role, duty, privilege level. Yes, I forgot to say somewhere here. Here. Also, I identify the most expensive roles. It's always a question. What's the most expensive? Like, what's the most if I need to change one piece of something, what could it be to get the best result in the license reduction? And here, if I see multiple SKUs, multiple licenses are required for the same role, this is a red flag, always the red flag, because in this case, we assign the role to one user, to another user. This user uses only part of the role, like supply chain part. This user uses only finance from the role, like this part of the role. It always drives a higher requirement. So these two give me this. Okay, let's go back. I'm sorry, jump in. Sorry. Okay, this one. Security analysis and telemetry. That's the utilization. And we can say, you know what, some privileges and duties have never been used. So we can revoke them and nobody is going to lose any functionality. Great. What if we combine the three of them? Security analysis, telemetry, and security user role association. Security user role association, I will remind you, it's a data migration data entity. If we combine all three, it's a utilization for a specific user. So we can say if this user doesn't use the role, like let's say something, I don't know, like the user is a warehouse worker, but he has a warehouse manager assigned to this user only to manage loads. This user is not really a warehouse manager, but he has a whole bunch of supply chain driving menu items. So we can consider the reconfiguration and we can revoke certain roles from the user and save on the license. And that's how it works altogether. Known issues. Let's talk about issues. We see it quite often. Telemetry doesn't capture everything, especially, you know, when you deal with the form like menu item, display menu item, and you have actions. My favorite example is manufacturing execution floor, where people deal with the production order form. They estimate operations, schedule operations, run operations, estimate, schedule, run are action menu items, and telemetry doesn't capture them. It's a known limitation, and we deal with this how? We just know if the user has full access to the production order, he will most likely need access to all of these action menu items. Same with the bill of lading. The bill of lading, when you're trying to print it from different places, it's an output menu item that is absolutely skipped by telemetry, and so on. The list is growing. The more we do, the more we know. Another limitation that I noticed, it happened to 2 clients. The base role, you know the base role. Let me show you again. The base role, this base role. For the same user, it shows up twice. Oh, you see it. The base role. This no, sorry, not here. No, it shows up twice. It was absolutely the same pattern. The base role showed up in front of the supply chain and in front of the team member. So definitely, we don't buy 2 licenses, 2 base licenses, and we don't assign them to the same user. It's a known limitation that we deal with. We buy supply chain because supply chain covers team member, but for some reasons, like it's an anomaly that I've seen twice. The base role shows up twice. We go with the more expensive one, definitely. So questions, please.
Right. We've had a few responses to questions in the chat so far from Morton. However, if you have any other questions that you have or would like clarification beyond the text-based responses, please go ahead and ask us.
And maybe just then this is opportunity to bring your question forward if you are still here.
Yeah,
absolutely.
If you want,
I sure am, Morton.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, I'll be happy
Great.
to share. Let me know if you want this presentation. I'll be happy to share, because it has the URLs, right? It has the URLs that you can go and collect this data and do your own analysis.
Mm-hmm. All right, folks, let's have it. Any further questions?
So here's my question that was come from the chat, right? So we have production floor execution devices that are device licensed, and then we have people who have only worker roles. They're not system users. They're not going, I'm sorry, they are not users who are going in at a keyboard and signing into 365 and doing anything. They only have a worker ID and they sign into the PFE and they sign off that I did my thing, and they enter their PIN and their e-sig, and then they go away. That's the only interaction they have. And I believe system user fulfills that requirement, which means they, strictly speaking, don't need a license. But it seems super weird that they would use an e-signature and still not need a license. And it scares me that, like, we could, I'll say, get around the licensing requirement for a whole bunch of people who are just production floor workers touching shared terminals. And I haven't been able to find like a concrete answer.
What's scary?
That
what?
That we could have so many users that are unlicensed that are using the terminals, but potentially need something like an activity or team members license at even like $8 a pop. If you're talking about 500 people, someone's going to get very angry.
Let me answer this question. First of all, yes, Microsoft raised this topic a few times. First of all, they designed 3 roles. If you look at these roles don't have anything attached to them. Neither duties, no privileges, nothing, right? These roles are like a classifier. And there are 3 of them. One is for your production floor execution people. The second one is for the point of sale people. And the third one for the warehouse workers. So that's the whole class of users, and it can be hundreds. If you assign this role, it's like an it's a classifier for PPAC report. These users do not require a license because they share devices, period. PPAC will exclude them. PPAC will exclude them.
That
So the
seems
ice
like
isn't as
such an
thin.
easy answer. Why doesn't Microsoft make that more clear?
However, Microsoft says, we will keep an eye on you.
Microsoft.
They say, we will keep an eye on you. If we see in the telemetry that these users abuse, it's based on trust, right? We trust you that these users are real device users. But if they say, if we see that in the telemetry that these users abuse this right to use the system without a license, we will talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair. That's amazing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for the questions. And hopefully in 47, when everybody gets to that, we will see a lot of improvements to the different reports across the system as well.
Mm-hmm. And like Morten mentioned earlier, there is some delay in the enforcement of device licensing itself. It is a roadmap feature. It is still being worked on as we speak. But for right now, Tatiana's advice is sound.
Oh, it's Microsoft. Yes, they developed these device rules a couple of versions ago. Then there was a comment. I don't remember one of those two documents that I mentioned, shared. One of those two documents is talking about these three device license roles, and they mentioned in our meetings, weekly meetings, that please don't abuse, because we trust you, and the device licenses we still trust you.
Right. All right, we do have a new question here from Carlos. Is it possible to assign and unassign licenses to different users without exceeding the total number of licenses purchased? In other words, is it possible to exchange licenses between users?
I can answer that. It is, but you are walking into a gray zone right there. If, for example, let's say you have users in Europe, you assign them licenses in the morning, and then you remove the licenses when they go home, and then you assign it to all the users in the US, for example. You will get in trouble. You will get in trouble.
Yeah, from the technical perspective, it is possible. There is an article that Andrea wrote some time ago about automatic assignment. He showed like the step-by-step Power Automate flow, how to assign the license to the users, driven by certain conditions. However, there is a 1 hour delay. When you assign a license, the user needs to wait up to 1 hour until the license starts working. And it sacrifices any idea of the perpetual licenses.
Mm-hmm. And it's worth pointing out that 1 hour delay messes with any automations that you are going to try and implement, and it makes it very messy. That's
right. Yes, you can use the assignment. You know, I'll show you. There are two. I use them. I use them in our configuration. There are two data management entities. These two that we use for assignment and unassignment. Security user role association assigns and unassigns roles. This one assigns the legal entity or the hierarchy, like that's the organization assignment. You know what I'm talking about, right? And this one, for example, it allows you on the fly, like very quickly. This one doesn't take an hour. This one allows you on the fly to enable, let's say, content. Do you have a content? Yes, great. To enable and disable. So this is assigned, so it disables, enables, disables, enables. You can play with this within finance and supply chain, but the license takes an hour to assign and unassign. this change happens in an hour.
So for the record, generally speaking, we do not recommend
We do not
on-the-fly
recommend.
license assignment and unassignment.
We
across the
cannot recommend
No,
because it's
each
out of
user in
usage.
yeah, each user in the system need to be licensed according to the guide, licensing guide. Just
Right.
like Office or whatever modern work license you have today.
Right. Yeah. Warehouse workers are a little bit simpler case, right? Because you can configure workers. You have all rights to do it. Workers who are not users in the system can work with the devices. It's in the worker. Where is it? Setup worker here. So you can assign multiple workers who are not users. PFE doesn't allow this. User should be a user. Warehouse worker doesn't need to be a user. And point of sales, I'm not sure how like whether it's requiring a license a user or not.
We have a couple of I think I replied to it. We have a couple of retail customers that are using D365 commerce for the retail side and the POS systems. And most of them, they have a device for the POS, and then the in this case it's a clothing company. They are then keying in whatever they need on the POS, so they are covered. I have seen a few examples where they need elevated licenses, but in the majority of the cases, device license per POS is
Right.
still.
Right. Device license. It's our everything, right? It's our everything device license for it's designed. So actually, to be honest with you, I've never seen anybody signing these roles yet. Who's going to be the first?
I also believe, James, the new. Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, Molo, it's going to be our clients, all 500 of them.
Okay, great.
Oh, I saw James had a warehouse worker. I think also there's some different attributes related to the new VMS mobile app. So depending on what they are using, require different licenses.
Are you talking about production floor execution incorporated into mobile app? I also wonder how it works, to be honest, because starting from quite recent version, mobile app can do some production execution operations. I wonder how it works. Production floor is an interesting topic because generally speaking, it's an activity license, like you mentioned, right? It's an activity license, agreed. Warehouse worker is a team member. Production floor execution is an activity license. And Microsoft seems to be forgiving us by giving this role. It's a
quick
gift.
question.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry. Quick question from Graciela. Users with device-based roles require the system user role as well? Or I suppose, do they require that?
Great question. I guess yes, because he is a user. The system role, if you look at the configuration of the system role, it has lots of integration inside that the user normally requires. I think yes. I think I would assign a system user, but the system user is from the list of not requiring licenses. It's not going to consume the license. It's from this list. The system user is here. It's in the list.
Okay.
Yeah. Shouldn't cost, as well as the system external user for the vendor collaboration and other external users.
I think also we are a little bit over, but thank you everybody for sticking in.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
If you have more questions that we haven't answered, just send them over. We take a look at it. We can bring some of them up tomorrow morning with Microsoft. If there's anything that's unanswered, there'll probably a lot of things coming up still, but we're here to help.
We're always happy to get emails, and we're always happy to take a moment, read through them, make sure we understand everything properly. So please send them our way as soon as you have them drafted. We want to get them.
I'll be happy.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cheers,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Have a good one.
Cheers. You too.